vocab is one of those areas that appears extremely challenging to improve in. You can digest dictionaries, thesaurus.com, but these aren't really the most effective ways. Instead, what I did was I would look at sample essays and use the words that they used. And I summarized all this down into a condensed document, which I'll share with you today. And just note, this isn't going to be one of those massive vocab sheets where you probably won't use like 90% of them. Instead, all the words that I'm going to show, I have used them in previous essays. So I'm going to go through each category of vocab that I have, as well as some examples. Enjoy. First up, we have words instead of show. So show is one of the most common words that you'll use in your essays. And this is where you're analyzing something a writer has said, and you want to say, how does this quote or this example show something? But we don't want to use the word show since it's a bit basic. So here's what we can do instead. Next, words for support. So every quote or example you look at eventually supports the author's point of view in some way or form. But rather than saying this supports the author, which is a fine word to use, but as some alternatives, here they are. Does the author use a particular technique, strategy, or quote? Well, instead of using the word use, you can say, does the author argue or contend for a particular thing? If so, here's what you can say instead of argues. The writer might not only argue for a particular thing, but also they might praise the thing that they are talking about. In this case, you can use words such as now, the author might be on the opposite side, and they might try and attack something the opponents are saying or undermine a particular trend. Now, when we are looking at a text, the author is always doing something in their novel, film, or article. And this is why I had a list of doing words, so verbs. And I split these verbs into 3 categories, so neutral verbs, positive verbs, and negative verbs. Now, there might be some overlap since verbs is a very broad category. And to describe these verbs, we often pair an adverb in front of a verb, and this is a more eloquent way of writing. And here I want to touch on the idea of tone, because it's always good to identify what the tone is, regardless of which essay. But try to avoid saying things such as, the author has an aggressive tone and states we need to change. Instead, since the tone word is aggressive, change that to an adverb. And you can say, the author aggressively states we need to change. So overall, try to avoid the word tone and use an adverb instead. And here are a list of adverbs, again split into those 3 categories, neutral, positive, and negative. So we have talked a lot about the author, but another key aspect of our essay writing is how does the text affect the audience? And to answer this, we need to address 3 main questions. How is the audience left to think, feel, or respond? So let's see some words to help us with this. So that is it, and of course this wasn't an exhaustive list, but rather it was just a list of words that I ended up using a lot in my essays. So I recommend forming one of these documents for the words and vocab that you have found success with. Anyways, that is the video. Hope that was helpful, and take care.